Hi everyone, I'm Sanjana. I'm an intern for JA and I'm here with another fireside chat. I'm here with JR. It's great to have you here, JR. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just jump right on into it. Please tell us about your educational and professional backgrounds and the path that you took to get to the position that you're in today.
Sure. So I'm a chemical engineer. I went to Lehigh University, and I worked for a company called Infineum, where I started 29 years ago. So I've been here my entire career. When I started with Infineum, we were a different company. We were Exxon Chemical at the time, and throughout the years, we transitioned to ownership. So when I started, I went into a kind of entry-level position. New engineers come into our organization and they can work in research or manufacturing or supply chain. I worked in manufacturing and really got involved in working kind of improvement projects, working troubleshooting for the plant when things didn't go as well. And over time, worked my way into some management positions, leadership positions here in our manufacturing facility. And we're located in Linden, New Jersey. So if anyone's familiar with New Jersey, we're right off of exit 13 on the turnpike. You can kind of see the big chemical plant right there. And from there, then I ultimately got out of manufacturing and got into other parts of our business. So in my company, we tend to hire people into roles based on their education path. But their career path then can go a number of different ways, depending on what their interests in and what their capabilities are. So once I left my engineering manufacturing roles, I learned a number of different areas of our business. I've been in sales, supply chain. I've been in procurement, which is like purchasing, where I would buy raw material chemicals for our manufacturing units and also services to support the different areas of our business. I've been in finance, where I got involved in understanding some of the analytics and business side of our organization, how we make money, where we need to manage costs, how we can optimize things. And in those types of roles, again, I had roles where I was more of an individual contributor or where I was leading a group of people. I then got some roles that were really interesting where I could do kind of global roles outside of New Jersey, outside of the US, and I would lead teams from different parts of our organization. In fact, I found myself at one time in my career being the leader of our IT organization, or what people would know as a CIO these days. Knew nothing about IT, but one thing you find out once you get into your career and you start to learn things about your business and you gain experience, and particularly if you decide to go down a leadership path, you kind of copy the same approach that you use in different roles, and you rely on your subject matter experts in your team to kind of tell you what you need to know about the details of the business. And you worry more about strategy, you worry about how do you optimize things, you worry about how you lead and develop your people. So it was really interesting to learn about the world of IT, running a company from that perspective, even though people thought I should know how to fix an app on their iPhone just because you were the IT person in the room. And interestingly enough, as my career went forward, then I found myself back now in a position in the manufacturing plant where I started. I'm now the plant manager. So I lead a group of 250 or so colleagues, both our process technicians in the field, represented colleagues, maintenance organization, laboratory organization, technical engineering, all different types of roles. So I really found it very valuable to gain a lot of experience. And it's just funny how your career can take you all around a company, frankly, all around the world. I've gotten a chance to travel to places like Singapore, China, Italy, England, down in Latin America. And then I wind up here basically separated by a couple of offices from where I first started my career 29 years ago.
That's amazing. And it's so interesting to hear how you got such a wide range of expertise and experience. And I'm sure that that's something that the students are probably, wondering, because I feel like when you're in college and as you step out into the professional world, you kind of feel like you should just stay in one vertical or just do one thing. But now we have that sort of testament to know that it's not really like that. You can do whatever it is that you want and you can explore.
It's absolutely true. And, I'm sure just starting out, most people, I myself, my sons, as I shared with you just briefly before the call, I have sons, one in high school, one in college. They don't know what they want to do, right? Everybody kind of has a little bit of an idea maybe about what they want to do, but it's mostly unknown. And a career is so long. I mean, when I say 29 years, people listening to this fireside chat haven't been alive for 29 years, so they can't imagine working for that long. But really, you just kind of, you trust your instincts, you trust your company, you learn a little bit about what you do like and what you don't like. You try to do the very best you can at the job that's in front of you. And everybody's career path, frankly, is a little bit different. So some people can stay in one area because they're quite happy to do so. They specialize, they learn a skill set, they maybe become an expert in their field, whereas others like to dabble a little bit. I guess I'm a dabbler, or what we call a generalist, because it sounds more professional than dabbling.
Absolutely. So my next question for you is, did you have any significant extracurricular experiences in high school and or college that really helped you later on in your career?
I did. Now I want to preface the discussion after I'll tell you about myself, but I don't think it's if you don't have a long list of extracurriculars, it's not a bad thing. You can still be successful, right? Because as I just got done telling you, there's not one path to get to where you want to be. Everybody kind of follows their own path. That being said, I do think extracurriculars are important. You've heard, I'm sure, described as people being a bit well-rounded. And frankly, I think not only do companies like candidates who are well-rounded in their careers and they can do more things, but I think it just develops you as an individual when you're exposed to more experiences, right? So personally, when I was in high school, I was involved in sports, I was involved in student government, and I was involved in drama and plays and musicals and that sort of thing. So you can kind of see right there, those are really three pretty distinct different areas. Sometimes those are kind of groups of people who you would say, oh, they don't, the athletes and the people in the musicals don't mix as much, or the student government or whatever. But I actually found that it was really great to get to know people. And I think that's one of the things that I would emphasize, not just in school or in college or moving into your professional career. It's really around collaborating with different people and networking. So yes, I had extracurriculars. I think I would encourage people to do them, but you have to balance your time as well, right? I think that's the one thing that sometimes dissuades people from doing more extracurriculars, because they have to stay up with their studies and learn their subject, or they might have responsibilities at home to take care of a sibling or to work. Those are important extracurriculars as well too, right? In college, I tried to stay involved as well. Now you kind of do some different extracurriculars there. I was a part of a fraternity organization where I had officer positions. That was really interesting because you kind of learn how to run a household and learn how to manage finances and projects and a whole type of social agenda. I was involved in some diversity organizations on campus as well, helping to support the community, helping to promote causes within our area. If you don't know where Lehigh University is, it's in kind of western or eastern Pennsylvania, and there's plenty of opportunity to help develop in that community. So especially 29 years ago. So a lot of good that we could do there by helping out in food banks and donating for clothing for the needy, running drives for those types of things. So those are types of extracurriculars that not only help expose you to different situations and meet different people, but you're giving back, and that really feels good as well. And then the other extracurricular that you can tend to get involved with on a college campus is trying to do some type of research. I know, again, from my kids who are in college or applying to college, that research is a kind of big buzzword these days whenever you go to school. And you can do research in almost anything. It doesn't just mean a test tube in the laboratory, right? People do a lot of research on social experiences or entrepreneurial activities and things of that nature. And it's really about allowing you to kind of explore and investigate and learn, which is what college is all about. I like it better the way it's described today than kind of when I did it. I was more the test tube type person working in a lab with one of my professors because, as most of you would know, a professor in college is doing both teaching, but they're also typically doing research as well. So they look for students to help them out to support their programs and things. And again, through that, I was exposed to different people, different experiences. You know, when you work with a professor, you kind of, it's not a bad thing. You get to know some of the faculty. You can ask them questions about your studies, and you can ask them what you want to do with your career, any advice they had. I happened to go to work in industry, but I was considering going to graduate school at the time. And that's a discussion that I had with one of my faculty advisors and also the person I was doing research with. So it's really about broadening yourself, broadening your experiences, trying to take something away from each of those experiences. But again, recognizing that you have to balance it all so that you don't get overwhelmed.
I completely agree with your response. And I am like the number one advocate for research. I've been doing it, even though I'm just a freshman, I've been doing it since winter of 2020. So pretty much like right when I got my foot in the door at college. So I completely agree with what you said. It's so important. It helps you really build those important connections with professors, and the professor I was working with for research is now my mentor. So you could really get a lot of value from that, and just organizations in general. So love that answer. Completely agree.
Yeah, and you know what? You mentioned a really important word, I think, which I probably wouldn't have brought up otherwise. So I'm glad you did, which is a mentor. And I think at different points in time around your high school, college, and professional experience, a mentor is so important. You know, just somebody who's been there before, somebody who you can ask questions of, somebody who's willing to share their advice and guide you. You know, somebody different than your direct leader if you're working for a company. The leader has a certain specific sets of responsibilities, and of course, they're looking to guide you as well. But a mentor is a bit informal and, you know, kind of looking out for you without having to assess your performance and those types of things. So it's really nice to look for mentors at different points along the way in your life.
100%. So my next question is, what led you to pursue the career that you have now, and were your aspirations for your career path different in high school and or college compared to how they actually unfolded?
Yeah, great question. And as I alluded to before, I was probably like a lot of students. I didn't really have a clue on what my career was going to hold for me. I barely knew what college was going to have in store for me, let alone a whole career. But, you know, I went through a process, I think, that probably a lot of people do, which is to try and understand what I was good at in school, what I liked to do. I was good in math and science, and I found them interesting. And so you started the process of thinking about, okay, well, what types of careers are based in, we didn't use the term STEM at the time, but now you do. So I was looking at careers in STEM and what they mean. And you know, I then got on to the concept of engineering. I really wasn't exposed to the concept of engineering much in high school. So it was something new to me, but it sounded very practical. I usually like to be hands-on, like to tinker with different, you know, projects and things as a kid and take things apart. And so that sounded a little bit about what an engineer does. And also I tried to look forward to see, well, what kind of career would I have? Are those jobs that were growing in industry, and would they be, you know, something that once I graduated, I'd be able to make a living off of? And so I think those were some of the things that went into my decision. By the way, from there, then the next step was, okay, well, how do I identify where I might want to go to school based on where I live, the size of the school, the cost of the school, the acceptance of my grades and those types of things, and you kind of find the right fit. Fortunately, there's so many different opportunities out there that everybody can find a fit, I think, even if it's not the top one on your list, by the way. Shouldn't get disappointed if you don't go to the top place on your list. Now, did that match my expectations? Honestly, it was a lot harder than I expected when I went to school. And I think that some people maybe are more prepared than others with their high school experience. High school can be tough if you take a rigorous set of classes, I think, and you really put your mind to it. But when you get into college, it's pretty much, they're expecting that everybody has worked hard and will continue to work hard and put in the time and effort. And a lot of the classes are graded on a curve, and you really have to manage your time very well. You're on your own. You don't have a parent or a teacher telling you and reminding you it's time to study. So, that part, I think, didn't necessarily match my expectations. And I like maybe some other kids, I went through a bit of a learning curve early on where you say, okay, time to bear down and really get serious about this. But I think just the whole process I've been describing around going from high school to college through your career is about learning along the way, not just learning subject matter, but growing as a person and about how you handle different situations and how you take those experiences and now can apply them to a new situation. So when you gain those skills about how you study and what it takes to succeed, then it just takes off and now you know how to do it and you can apply it. So for me, the early part of college was harder than the latter part of college because I finally learned and maybe I matured and grew and became a bit more of a young adult and what to do. And as far as then were my interests in school matching my career expectations, I think there again, no, not really, because I didn't know what kind of job I would have. As I described my career, I've been fortunate to be able to try a lot of things. I think if I would have stayed kind of in the same type of job I was when I first started with the company, I probably would have gotten bored. I would have wanted to try something new. I maybe would have even found another company to work for. But because I was fortunate enough to try different things and get involved, meeting new people, traveling, working either as a leader or a colleague, and just continuing to broaden my experiences, that kept me fresh and motivated, kept me challenged, and kept me interested for my whole career. So it certainly wasn't what I thought when I started, but honestly, that's probably just because I didn't know what to expect. And I'm glad the way it all turned out. So that simple formula of math and science, be an engineer, it worked out in the end, but there wasn't a lot of science to it back then.
Absolutely. And I think, as I said before, it's really easy as a young person to get caught up in this idea of, having everything figured out all at once so early on. But it's totally okay to go to college, change your major. I mean, that's the whole point, right? To explore. So exactly. I think that was really important that you brought up.
Great.
All right. So to end off our fireside chat, I have one last question. What advice would you give to young people who will be embarking on their professional lives soon?
That's great. And I'm so happy to be able to talk to the people listening to the chat versus my kids who would probably have tuned me out already right now if I'm giving them advice. So maybe it'll be taken on more by this group. So a few things. First of all, I really recommend that people follow a path doing something that they like to do. It's, college is a long time, whether you go in 4 or 5, however many years, and then a career is a long time as well. So if you get involved in doing something that you're really not that interested in, I don't know if you're ever going to be passionate about working. If you are, fantastic, go for it. But just try to pick a field that you're interested in because it is a long time and you want to, stay motivated, stay interested through all that time. I would say keep trying new things. Throughout high school, college, your career, you'll be presented with opportunities that you can try something different or not. Even if that something different sounds a little scary, maybe is something that you're not usually into, I would say typically try to give it a chance and learn from it because it's going to develop you. It's going to broaden you. It's going to give you a set of experiences that you can pull from and you can apply in other aspects. Even if it's something that you ultimately choose, I don't like that. For example, when I was in a sales organization, people thought, oh, JR will be great at sales. He likes to talk to people and whatever. But I wasn't really comfortable doing it. And so when I learned going through it, that's not something I want to do for my whole career. But it gave me an appreciation for that side of our business and what customers are interested in. So I'm very glad that I did do it. So, try new experiences. there's a little exercise sometimes that I talk to my team about when we're working together. And if you can picture kind of a target with a center and then another zone and then a zone outside, so kind of 3 concentric circles. That center zone I sometimes refer to as a comfort zone. So when you're doing things within your comfort zone, it's really easy. You get it. You know, you're an expert. You succeed all the time in that. But you're really not challenging yourself. It's not a stretch. You can probably do it in a small percentage of your time, and you're not learning much. The outermost circle I refer to as the danger zone. When you work on things out there, you've stretched yourself too far. You haven't given yourself a chance to maybe build the fundamentals or gain the skills or whatever that you need to succeed. And when you're out there, you might do some damage to your career development. You might get reluctant to try new things again. You might get a bad impression of the company or the opportunity. So you really don't want to push too far out. But there's a spot between the comfort zone and that danger zone that I call the learning zone. And that's where you want to be. You want to push yourself out of the comfort zone, not so far that it's dangerous, but somewhere where you're trying things that are new and different, gaining new skill sets, trying new things. And then eventually that learning zone becomes your new comfort zone. And now your circle is bigger, right? So if you apply that approach throughout your career, imagine you started as an entry-level position with this tiny little comfort zone. And by the time you get to where I am, your comfort zone's a lot bigger. And you just feel more capable of doing things and contributing to the success of your organization. So just something little to kind of think about. And I think the last thing advice that I would give is really communication and collaboration with people of all types, whether they're in your company, outside of your company, in your community, people you buy things with, agencies that might regulate your business, professors, whatever. It's so important, right? And, you know, I know people communicate differently throughout different stages in their life, right? And a lot of people might just communicate through text and Snapchat or whatever these days, right? But as you go forward, you know, you polish that communication skill. You start to learn the really important things about communicating and working with other people, like seeing things from their perspective, right? So you might want to push an agenda, push an idea, push a project, but honestly, if that's not being well received by the people that you're speaking to, then you might need to change your approach. What are they interested in? How do they like to see things? You've got to work together, because almost never do I find myself in a situation where I'm trying to get something done and it only depends on me. Most of the time, it depends on working with the team. So the better you can communicate, the better you can collaborate, the better you can have empathy for the needs and understanding of the needs of the other people you're working with, the more successful you'll be.
That was an incredible answer. And I think that visual of the target that you mentioned, it's something that could definitely resonate with the students listening, you know, as they go through their educational paths, that idea of, you know, your comfort zone, learning, and then what's really out there. That's definitely something super important. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. So happy to.
So thank you again for being here. This is an amazing fireside chat, and I know for a fact that the students will get a lot of value from this.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. So I will stop recording.